Hi, Chief. I'm good. How are you?
Very well.
Good.
All right, I know where I'm gonna sit.
Okay.
Find an appropriate spot.
Okay. Hi, Joan. I am well. How are you? Yes, and that's all we can really ask for these days. We missed you on the walk yesterday.
I know. I had to work
Uh,
and they called me back. And so I couldn't get out of it. It was a heavy duty because
yeah,
I was a kid,
yeah,
lots of stuff. So
yeah. That's how it goes
I'm
sometimes.
sorry I missed that. I talked to Steve.
Yeah, Steve's here. He was just sitting over here.
He's over here.
He was sitting over there. He must have gotten up to get some water.
Oh, we're supposed to sit over there?
No, you sit wherever you want. Yeah. Hi, John. Good. How are you? Hi. How are you? Yeah.
So one of the questions are doing special.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, there's no guidebook for that.
No guidebook. And we think hits from the
Right, because everybody thinks that, they have the right idea, and they're, how do you know? How do you know? So you rely on advice of counsel. And that's your best defense should something go awry. Yeah, definitely. Right. I don't know if you could. Right. Right. I mean, right, and you have to protect the association. That's your number one job. Good morning. Yeah, I mean, it's not easy for anybody, John. I will tell you. I hope so. I hope so. Yes, I know. It's great. Hi, buddy. Okay.
Where are they?
Oh, wow. Make sure you see them. Yeah.
Is this work? Yes. I would like to ask all the candidates to come to the front right now so we can get started on time.
Yeah, we're on film, we're recording. No, because we would be, I mean, we're iffy right now, so anybody else should sit there or stand at the door to seriously. Right. Yeah, really. Right. Yeah. Yes.
Okay, I would like to, I would like to welcome all of you. Betsy, is this on?
I don't hear it.
Okay, now.
Yeah.
Okay, I would like to welcome everybody to the 2021 Candidates Forum. And this year's a little bit different because we have a live audience, and thank you for being here. And we also have a Zoom audience. So I'm going to quickly go over the agenda and then we'll get started. We will be taking questions from both the live audience and the Zoom audience. And I'll try to alternate so that everybody gets their share of time to ask a question. I would like to introduce myself. If you don't know me, I'm Linda Cook, and I'm Vice President of the board right now. And I'm not running because I still have one more year to my term. And Bill Endicott, who is part of the nominating committee this year, and he will be helping me with moderating the forum. So, agenda. We will begin the agenda with the candidates having 2 to 3 minutes each to introduce themselves and say a little something about themselves and what they feel is important about being part of the Nepenthe board. After that, we will, Bill and I each have questions from the nominating committee for the candidates. That will just take a few minutes. And then we'll open it up for questions from the audience. When you are asking a question, we expect you to come and use this microphone because for the people who are on Zoom, it is very difficult to hear, we realize, without being very close to the microphone. We have wipes, so we can wipe it off after each person speaks. But also, candidates, please put the microphone close to your mouth and almost directly, like you're looking at an ice cream cone. So after the questions from Bill Endicott and I, then we'll start the questions from the audience. Your question can be directed to an individual, or it can be directed to the entire group. The candidates will have no more than 2 minutes to respond. Just so in fairness, we have to set a limited time for each speaker. Masks may be removed when you are asking the question. If you're sitting in the audience and you're drinking coffee or you have water, feel free to remove your mask in order to do that. And the audience, the live audience, and I didn't introduce Betsy for those of you who don't know her, Betsy Ledesma, our general manager. Betsy, can you, I don't know how you want the Zoom audience. The people that are in here will raise their hand if they would like to ask a question. But as far as our Zoom audience goes, you want them to unmute?
I have one comment already from a homeowner who is saying it's hard to hear. So I'm going to try and manipulate this microphone a little closer. I don't know if that helps or not, but maybe when you're using the microphone, if we can get the speakers closer to this mic. I'm just not sure.
I can step a little bit closer.
Yeah. So, but I think the best way for the people in the Zoom room to ask a question is to send a little chat. I will monitor the chats, and when it's time, I will let you in.
Okay, and if you are on Zoom right now and you can hear me, if you don't know how to use the chat function, just kind of wave your hand, and Betsy will, see that you're waiting.
Yep. And the chat, for those of you on Zoom that are new to Zoom, if you hover your mouse, your cursor down towards the bottom of the Zoom screen, you'll see what looks like a speech bubble. That's the chat. So you just click on that, it opens up, and you can type in there that you would like to ask a question, and then we can call on you to ask a question, or you can ask it via chat and I can repeat it.
Okay, so, and at the very end of the forum, we will allow a summary from each one of the candidates. If you not had time or feel that you'd like to answer a question that's asked to another candidate, you'll have 2 minutes to summarize. Okay, so I just wanted to explain for those of you who don't know that the Nepenthe Board of Directors works under what's called the Davis-Sterling Act. And so we are bound by certain restrictions, and this is pretty much used 100% for homeowners associations throughout the state of California. It was actually passed, I think, in 2018. It's amended every single year. It does set requirements for us. And I know lots of you have questions about transparency. And so I just wanted to explain to you that this act covers business code, corporate code, health and safety code, community regulations, penal code, which would be interesting. I guess if someone commits a crime, that's part of our HOA, and tax codes. So for those of you who aren't aware of this, when you are a board member, you are actually in violation of the Open Meeting Act if there are 3 of you who informally discuss board business or send emails, and there are 3 board members, because that constitutes a quorum for us. So it's a unique board. Bear that in mind, that we are bound by restrictions. So with that, I'm ready to start, and I'm going to ask Bill Endicott to come up and. Oh, sorry. Okay, they are, sorry. Okay, so we're gonna have the candidates introduce themselves, and I guess we can go left to right. So, John, want to get your microphone?
Sure. Is this my 2 to 3 minutes?
Yes.
Thank you, Linda. Betsy, I'm curious, how many are on Zoom?
it is increasing almost moment by moment. So let me just tell you here in a minute. We have 31 participants.
Wow. Well, before we start, we'd really like to thank everyone for attending. 37 on Zoom, and I count a little over 20 here. Certainly an indication of the importance and interest in the election. It's competitive, and I think everyone who's attending is very interested in the results, so thank you very much. Again, John Baker, I have lived in Nepenthe for 6 years. I've lived in the Sacramento area almost exclusively since 1977. I've been active in Nepenthe. I'm currently on the outreach committee, and I was on the finance committee for 4 years. I chaired it for 2. As some people have joked, well, you must know where all the skeletons are. I don't know about that. Personally, I have 5 daughters. Which includes the center triplets, who incidentally are turning 44 tomorrow. So it's a proud day for me this weekend. I have 3 grandchildren and 1 in the oven. Many of you might have seen me walking my 2 King Charles Spaniels, Bentley and Sebastian. Most people know me as, oh, you're Bentley and Sebastian's dad. Oh, that's who you are, right? Professionally, I'm educated as a civil engineer from the University of California, Berkeley, with undergraduate and graduate degrees, with a stint in the U.S. Navy in between. Yes, the Navy does have civil engineers. Steve, I know you're here somewhere. Both share that. I am licensed to practice civil engineering in California and Oregon, and I've spent over 50 years in the engineering, construction, and construction management practice. Most of my career has been in the private sector, and it led me to having the full profit and loss responsibility for the greater portion of the company's West Coast operations, which amounted to about $100 million annually in gross revenue, so pretty significant responsibility.
John, I'm going to just pause you really quick. I'm getting feedback from the people online that they're having difficulty hearing. So I just think I'm going to move this a little closer to you. And let you go ahead.
Should I start over?
Yeah.
I'd be glad to.
No, it's worse.
I hope you guys can hear me on TV or on mute, rather on Zoom. I do Zoom all the time. I can't see you, and I'm sorry for that because, well, I've got stories about that. I have left full-time employment about 6 or 7 years ago. I'm currently on what I call my second career. I'm part-time faculty at Sac State as a lecturer in the Department of Construction Management. During my career, and even currently, I've been involved in 6 nonprofit mutual benefit corporations as a director. I have been president of 4 of them. I have found that the best way of governance through board of directors is through open and transparent meetings where the agendas are stuck to strictly, where there is an opportunity for dialogue from the members, but there are time limits so that the meetings don't degrade into shouting matches, and things are very much in the open. I really feel like that hasn't happened too much here recently. The current board has made some pretty significant decisions in executive sessions, and then we find out about it later during the open session. Frankly, the board meetings have turned into one-way discussions, download sessions, and I just don't think that's right for effective governance. We have plenty of issues to deal with in the next couple of years, not the least of which are safety, security, our water meters, which is going to affect our dues, the dues themselves, landscape improvements, and of course, on-street parking. I have been told by a number of long-term residents but they would really like some change, and I'm here offering you that change. And so, again, I believe in tremendous transparency, owner involvement, and I would appreciate your vote. Thank you very much.
One second. Okay, hi, my name is Ashley Nichols Tomaros, and I'm running for the board because I think things can be quite a bit better here. Just a little bit about me. I've got a 12-year-old and a 19-year-old. I've got a daughter at UC Santa Cruz and a son at Sierra Oaks. And so we're starting to see a lot of younger families here, and I really think that we need to be more inclusive. Just a little bit about me. I worked at my father's architecture firm for years, starting when I was 16. I ended up graduating from University of Utah with degrees in finance and urban planning. I got a master's degree in financial economics when I lived in Norway, and I speak Norwegian. And let's see what else about me. I've worked in the real estate industry for years. I'm a licensed FINRA financial advisor. I'm also licensed in insurance, licensed real estate broker, and I've been a senior analyst in public health for 10 years. And I've actually written some of the regulations for the California Department of Public Health. So I do feel like I'm able to deal with these health mandates and effectively implement them for our community. A little bit more about me, let's see. I've been on the board of the Village 10 Campus Commons, and I worked really hard on the water meter project, and a few of the fellow board members were just about to increase our dues and just have one lump bill, but I was able to find some savings, and we were able to parse out each of our water meters, which keeps our dues lower and really affects our home values in the end. But the reason why I'm running for the board is just that I feel like there should be more board transparency. I don't think that we should be taking shortcuts, you know, for a few bad actors, making it difficult for the rest of us, you know, to use the pools. And the tennis courts were closed, even though the county parks and everywhere else was open. I think our overall health is really important, especially when you look at, you know, keeping your underlying health conditions at bay. For a lot of these people, pools are the only form of exercise they have. So that was really important to me. And then just in general, I feel like we're focusing a lot on like just following the rules instead of looking at the big picture. I'd really like to involve the community in creating a strategic plan. When I worked as an urban planner, we actually invited the community in. We had 3 different storyboards and we got feedback, especially as we are looking at spending $3 million on landscaping. I'd like to see an overall design. I think we could spruce up our community, improve the home values by having some new paint colors. Let's see what else. I've also worked as an auditor and a tax auditor, so I'm very good with taxes. Just in looking at our finances, I'm seeing that we've got $500,000 sitting in cash, earning no interest. We're just about to lock up another couple $1 million for 2 and 3 years at below market rates. And I don't think it's right. I think we need to earn as much money as we can, and we're spending too much on admin. It's $40,000 a month. And so I do believe I can find some savings and keep our dues low, which is really important, you know, for our overall home values. But those are the reasons why I'm running. And I do support John and Marcus. And thanks for coming today.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Marcus Dasher, and I had to actually write down what about myself because otherwise I can't remember. Anyway, I've lived a pretty boring life, I guess. So anyway, my wife Jean and our dog Ivy and Ivy live on 1077 Vanderbilt Way. We bought our house in at the end of 2017. We finally moved in 2018. That was a strategic planning for us to actually move into Nepenthe. Several years ago, when I discovered Campus Commons, I did some research and I figured Nepenthe is the place where I want to live. Well, I had to convince my wife that she will move with me. Anyway, the reason why I wanted to live here was the beautiful landscaping, the amenities, that I don't have to take care of my own pool, and also the community feeling. I'm very community oriented. I'm from Switzerland. We have always participated in communities, in all kinds of clubs when I grew up, so I felt like Nepenthe is the right place for us to live. That finally came through our plan in 2017 when we found the right house in the right location. So then everybody we did some remodeling and eventually moved in. But when we moved in here, we met a lot of great people, immediately made a lot of friends. And then when I started talking to the community, I noticed that a lot of the people that live here have at one point served on the board or served on one of the committees. And I felt like I wanted to be part of it, wanted to be part of one of the committees, and I was chosen to be on the grounds committee. So I hope I wasn't too much trouble so far on that committee. Steve Hoffman over here does a tremendous job, an incredible job on that committee. It's not easy to be on any committees, I'm sure. I've only had experience on the grounds committee, but what we do is not easy. We are representing 590 homeowners, and sometimes we probably have 590 different opinions. So we want to do the right thing. I believe every committee that we have wants to represent all of our homeowners as good as they can, and it's not always easy to do that, I'm sure. So I appreciate what everybody does. It is a volunteer position, and I would like to see a little bit more involvement from our homeowners. We have 590 homeowners and roughly about 31 or so right now on Zoom and 20 plus here. I would like to know where all the other people are. If you don't want to participate, that's okay, but I would really like to see more involvement. If it were up to me, I would like to see 590 board members. Everybody that owns a house here should have a say in what's going on here. So anyway, if I'm elected to the board, I would like to be the voice of all the homeowners. I have gathered a list of concerns and complaints, and some of them that keep coming up over and over again, from the high HOA dues, from the safety, security, parking situation, and so on and so forth. We can't reinvent the wheel, but I think we can improve in many different directions. So that's my goal, improving on what has been done over the last 40 plus years. I'm very goal oriented in my personal life and in my professional life. I'm very determined. You can ask my wife. I'm reliable, and I think I'm very helpful. So I'm hoping to get elected to this board. Thank you very much.
Well, my name is Greg Beal. I've been on the board for 2 years. You read my bio on the internet or on the things that I put together. Things I can't believe people can't hear me with my voice, but constantly come back to this saying, first of all. Winston Churchill once said, in the depths of World War II, where Britain was absolutely almost ready to be taken over by Germany, true leadership is not telling people what they want to hear, but what they don't want to hear. As I listen to my colleagues here to the right, I just think, what about the pandemic? We're talking about lack of communications, and I'm looking around here, and I had to mess with my mask, and I'm looking, everybody sitting 6 feet apart with masks on their faces. Now, we basically are a community organization. The reason I came to Campus Commons is because when I was getting my master's degree at Sac State, they talked about this place being put together, Campus Commons. There was a lot of people, some of the right wingers in Sacramento, think that this was a communist conspiracy because it was socialized. You didn't have the suburbs where people lived in their own homes with their own schools, as he was saying. I went through that same thing. What it does is it kills community. So I ran for that board, as some of you may remember, saying we're going to have more community. It actually sounded like these three guys as we was talking. It was almost the same things I was saying. But then came the pandemic. There are probably more people losing their jobs in elective office right now across this country because of the pandemic. The pools is a big issue, and I may sound defensive here, but we want the truth here. We don't want a bunch of concocted ideas here about how the board turned its back on everybody. You will learn if you win. You will learn that most of what you said beforehand was a bunch of baloney. You will learn that this thing is not an easy thing to run, especially in a pandemic. Come on, give us a break here. This lady to my left is one of the best chairpersons I've ever been around for any organization, which includes a master's degree in government, a bachelor's degree from Stanford University, Stanford Letterman Association winner, football, played for Walsh, I played for Ralston, I played for some of the leading people, leaders, as far as football coaches are concerned. I was the chairman of the Democratic Central Committee in Shasta County, which is the loneliest job in the world. And now we've had to put feet to the fire for 2 years, a year and a half at least, and we're getting people who are saying, I can communicate better. Well, of course you'll communicate better, because the pandemic is beginning to recede. If you take a deep breath and think about what leadership is, when people look, there's two kinds of interests. There's a private interest and a public interest. Right now, and I'm not going to get into personalities, but one of the motivations for what's going on here is because somebody's private interest was abrogated. We represent the public interest. When I was elected, I said I was going to be listening, going to coffees and everything else. I couldn't do it because we were in a pandemic. So if you want to vote this way and break apart the board, go ahead and do it. But by the time, I will bet you anything, by the time a year goes by, you're going to be going, holy crap. Most of what we thought was wrong. By the way, the Brown Act, or whatever you say, the Open Meeting Act, keeps us from having secret meetings. And every meeting we've had for the last 10 months has been Zoom. And what kind of dialogue can you have with Zoom? I teach for Zoom right now for Renaissance. And I'll tell you what, my daughter teaches kindergarten through Zoom at Bella Vista Elementary up in Reading. She cries to me every time she talks because she can't teach them, because she can't touch them and see them. So that's what we're dealing with here. False narratives, baloney. And I quite frankly, I'm mad. You're doggone right I'm mad, because I don't like to be called suspicious and working underneath people and going by everybody. I don't like that, because that's not me. And if anybody knows me out here, you do, there's one thing about Greg Beal, I carry my heart on my sleeve. You're getting just exactly what you're getting right now from me. Honesty, and not being afraid to tell people bad news. That's leadership. This isn't. Thank you.
I guess we're still recording. I'm Christina George. I have been a homeowner here since 1982. I joined the board 4 years.
Yeah. Just scooch it over a little bit there.
I joined the board 4 years ago, Initially, I was the treasurer for 2 years and liaison to the finance committee. I'm currently the board president. I have been board president for the past 2 years, and I'm also grounds liaison. Those are kind of very tough positions, both being board president and the liaison to grounds. We've had a lot of upheaval in grounds. We've had, I remember, 3 different chairs in grounds on the grounds committee. Currently, I have the pleasure of working with Steve Huffman, who was also on the board, has been on the board for several years and understands the limitations that we as a board have and exactly what the role of a committee is. Going back to what Greg has said, the biggest challenge that we had, the first year, the first month when I became board president, and when Greg joined, was the first year on the board. We were fortunate to have Will Bizarre, who'd been on the board for 6 years, Linda Cook. I was presented with the fact that we had no manager. So we had, as board president, I had to be board president, liaison to the grounds, and also community manager. None of these positions could I have continued with if it hadn't been for the teamwork I got from Greg Beal, Will Wizard, Linda Cook. Now, for 6 months, we continued in that role. I don't see anybody coming forward here or wanting to run for the board a year ago when things were pretty tough. And we managed to guide this association through without any legal or financial implications or concerns. We managed to do that. Then, when we finally got a manager back and Betsy Ledesma came back, we then got hit with the pandemic. And we had no playbook with this pandemic. So again, it was teamwork again with all the directors that got us through. And our priority was to ensure that this association was not faced with any liability issues. My priority as a director has always been to act in the best interests of the whole community. We cannot respond to various community pressures. Board decisions cannot be made by responding to various community pressures. Decisions have to be made based on what is good for the whole community. So I look forward to questions in the next couple of hours, and thank you very much.
Yeah, and maybe a little closer to the microphone. Right in front of the candidates. Okay, I'm gonna ask Bill Endicott to come up, and he has a question for each of the candidates. Yeah. Because of the microphone there, Bill.
Okay. First of all, I commend all of you for putting yourselves out there. Being on a homeowner's board, I think, is time consuming and basically a thankless job. So I have a very easy, fundamental question. Why do you want to do this?
Why do you want to do this?
Why do you want this job? And why do the two incumbents want it again?
Would you like each candidate to respond?
Beg your pardon?
Would you like each candidate to respond?
Yeah,
Okay.
Sorry, John.
Okay.
I hope the time comes when I'm not first every time.
Start with letter.
You know, that's a good question, Bill, and I pondered that myself. As Linda knows, I've been approached numerous times, including by Linda, to run for the board, and I frankly had some conflicts that I needed to resolve, which I've been able to do. But at the end of the day, I feel like I really owe it to the community. If I'm going to be unhappy in any way with what's been happening, I really ought to stop complaining about it and do something about it. That's why I'm here running. I think I can make improvements, and I really feel strongly about that. That's why I'm running.
actually. My mic.
Oh, is it this one here?
Okay. Well, first off, I just want to point out that unlike, the current regime, I like glass half full person. I'm positive. I trust that people can make health decisions that are best for them, whether, I mean, personally with the pools, I felt like there was more risk in the sign-up sheet with the pen and opening up the door than there was really, going to the pool. But I want to bring people together. I think for me, I'd love to play tennis. We've got a great opportunity here to bring all these tennis people out and do more and invite people here to be with us. And I think, there's just so much potential when you look around, but our reputation, unfortunately, on Nextdoor is that we are, giving out parking tickets. We're spraying Roundup. We're using fertilizers that are not organic. That's sort of, there's a lot of complaints on Nextdoor. I think our communication, our website could be much better. We could have a closed forum where we can keep the complaints amongst ourselves and also improve operations and make sure that we're a safer community. We're not hearing about what's going on here. There was a major crime incident across the street here where her window was broken. Elizabeth's window was broken out on the street where people are walking by and going to their mailbox. I mean, we need to talk about this. Maybe we need to get more security, more cameras. I'm not really sure, but I want to talk to everyone and find out what we can do to all be safe. A lot of us live here alone. And I'm from Reading, and I knew your daughter, Greg, and I hate to say it, but you terrorized my brother on the football team. And you were negative and always saying negative things to those kids. So yeah, you were the football coach, and you should talk to my mother, Tammy Nichols. I mean, I know you. Heather was a nice
Okay,
girl.
so Ashley, I'm gonna interrupt you. Because
Okay.
The question was, why do you want to run?
Well, why, you're right.
Sorry.
But you're right, thank you. But I want to be positive. I want to be positive about all the homeowners. If you come to me, I want to look for a solution that's creative and that can work for everyone instead of focusing in on these little things here and there. So the little details. So I think we need positive leadership.
All right, Marcus.
Well, Bill is actually one of my neighbors, and he's one of those people who pressured me tremendously to run for this board. No, honestly, as I said, we have met a lot of people that have had the capacity in one way or the other on one of the committees or on the board even, and they have, I think, served their time. They have done a lot of good for our community, and since I have a little bit more time maybe than other people have, I feel like it's part of my job to live here to support this community in any way I can, and maybe help the people that for whatever reason no longer can be part of a committee. And I'm listening what people are saying, what they would like. I wrote a whole list here with not necessarily complaints but improvements. And whatever happens in the past is in the past. We need to look forward, and that's how I live every day. We can only learn from mistakes, and nobody's a professional here. Nobody's a professional board member, and I heard the pay is not very good either, by the way. So I'm really not sure why would anybody torture themselves or let people torture them. But I do feel like I want to be part of this community, and I am part of the community, and a lot of people have asked me and told me that I'm supposedly a good candidate for the board. And again, I'm just supporting the community and their decisions and their ideas and whatever they would like. I mean, I cannot make any promises. I'm not a politician who makes promises to get elected. That's not my job, not my intentions whatsoever. That's why I don't want to talk about anything very, very specific. I cannot speak of anything specific because, you know, I'm on the committee, on the grounds committee. I can talk about the grounds committee a little bit, what a hard job it is and how many people that volunteer a lot on that committee. And again, it's not an easy job. So I like to participate. That's why I decided I will run. So thank you.
I was interested in that. We went through this, and I'm going to get sound defensive, but everybody got applause and I didn't. And because I was speaking truth to power. You guys know what that means. Now, the thing, the shot I just got about being a football coach. First of all, I made the horrible mistake of coaching at my old high school.
So Frank, will you just answer the question right now about?
Just a minute, I'm going to get to it, all right? And the point is, my reputation as a football coach was me, not me. That's what all football coaches have to put up with. If you wonder why I have a pretty good grasp of how to work together and reach consensus, is it's got to be me, not me. I don't even remember the young man that she's talking about, okay? But what's that?
Oh, gosh, I am so sorry.
Do I have to say it all over again?
No, you don't, we have the audio, we just didn't have you on visual, so sorry.
So one of the things that I've been trained in, I'll get to it, is as a football coach, I had to understand that. Again, it gets back to public interest versus private interest. And there's a lot of that going on right here right now. That was a cheap shot. Now, go ahead, write it down as a negative comment. I'm talking truth to power. We've gone 4 years in this country with an amazingly bad administration that was, quite frankly, to the point where they were trying to take over the Congress of the United States.
I don't think you're answering.
Wait a minute, they're saying the same thing, truth to power. All right, bottom line is, what I'm talking about is the social media thing that she's talking about, where social media has this and this and this to do. I studied social media when it first came out and when I was learning about technology. All right, and I found out there's nothing more dangerous than social media. It's one of the problems that breaks down communication between people. It's a communication between us that makes this work. And again, we've had a little bit of a pitfall here in the last year and a half where that is broken down. Now, this is a game of gotcha here, and it's being played very well over on this side. Please, let's stop doing that. Bring up my football career as a coach.
Greg,
Enough.
I'm gonna cut you off, sorry.
I'm done.
That's the job of the moderator, so can you just, in a sentence, tell us why you are running again for the board? One sentence.
Because of the sense of community.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. I'm glad you reminded me what the question was. I have benefited since I've been living in this community, which has been close to 40 years, of all the hard work that has been put in by volunteers who have helped protect my interests in this community during the time while I was away working. And I still see people around here today who were on the board or on committees. I mean, I'm looking at Nancy Onhofer, Bill Olmsted, Yvonne Del Biagio, Kate Oleski, the Trotters, Joe Trotter, who was on the board, and is now working as a committee member for Grounds, John Trotter, who was on the policy committee, Steve Huffman, who's been board president. So it's a social contract. I decided when I retired that I have to give back to this community. I can't keep taking, so I'm giving back. And that's the reason I'm here. I have a background in business management. I've worked in corporations. With Lockheed Martin primarily. And when I retired, I wanted to help the community and give back. That's been my only reason for being on the board. And I love this community, by the way, and I want to continue to live here. And again, thanks to all the previous volunteers who have made this a beautiful place to be. Thank you.
Okay, and I just have a question for each board member, and I'm taking it from, oh, do I have to be
Yeah,
in front of
you don't
this?
have to be in front of the camera, but
Okay.
you just need to be near the microphone.
Okay, so I have a question for each candidate, and it comes from the information that you submitted in your statement.
Could I ask for one thing? Could you reverse the order so we don't go in the same order?
We're not going in the same order, I just have it all mixed up. And I'm gonna start Ashley first, so, all right, so Ashley, you talked a lot about the financial aspect. And I just would like you to explain, what are some of the ways that you might find savings in our budget? Because you seem to be pretty familiar when I heard you introducing yourself. So what are some ways that we might find savings? And
Thanks, Linda, for the good question. So, part of what I've done as a senior analyst at the state was I toured through budgets. I look for operations improvements. I mean, it's from a piece of mail coming in, how does that mail get handled? So looking, what I would like to do is work with Betsy and figure out how we're doing things, find ways to maybe support her to do her job better. Maybe we do need to make some investments to make things run better and have our service tickets, handled quicker. But really understanding how every dollar is spent and just looking here, I don't know where First Service gets their rates, but I mean, they're just not competitive. And if you look at the CD rates for Morgan Stanley, I mean, they're just terrible. We're going to lose 20,000 in interest earnings this next year. I know interest rates are going lower, but why? I mean, they're starting to go up. They've been really low, but really looking at that detail, how can we save money? And there might even be some revenue opportunities for the association. Maybe we can do a better job renting out our facilities, or even actually using the outreach committee and doing some fundraisers to help serve our community. And so really looking outside and also inside, and then also getting feedback from the homeowners and what they'd like to see. I think everyone's got some good ideas.
thank you. Thank you. I'm going to ask Christina first. You talked about your priority has been best interest in the whole community. It's important to understand that board decisions cannot be made responding to various community pressures. So can you just expand on that a little bit? And I know you did address this in your introduction too.
Well, I mean, I suppose when you're referring, therefore, I'm referring to community pressures, meaning as a board, we have a fiduciary duty. And that means we have to follow the rules, governance, and community rules. We can't just make decisions based on individual homeowners' requirements or needs. And I guess that's where I'm heading to. We have to ensure that the fiscal and legal needs of this community are not compromised. And I guess that's where I'm at. And HOA regulated communities comes with covenants, laws, restrictions. And it is the duty of a director to follow these and to understand and to follow through and to understand these. We have to be absolutely conversant as a director with our CCNRs, bylaws, and community rules. And we have to follow these and enforce them. That is our obligation. So that's, I guess, what I'm trying to say.
Okay, for John Baker. Okay, so you talk a lot about transparency in your statement, and transparency in many, many areas. And I've heard today that a lot of people are concerned about transparency of the board, and how can we improve that? Do you have specific ways to actually talk about how we communicate that transparency to 590 homeowners?
Hitting a blinking green light.
There shouldn't be when,
Try it, put it close to your mouth. and try it.
There we go.
yeah.
Okay. I'd like to answer that question, but let me address the one that you asked Ashley quickly.
I'd rather not, just answer yours first, okay? It's not a debate today, really, it's for you.
I have a lot of ideas about that.
Okay.
What I'm hearing from a lot of people is we just don't know what the deliberations are on board issues, and we just find out what's decision without hearing what the arguments are for or against. That was the point I was trying to make early on. We've had a lot of decisions, particularly significant financial decisions, made in executive session, and we only find out about them once the decision has been made. And I think that's wrong. Whether that is allowed or not in our bylaws, and I question that is allowed. I think the right thing is to have this all aired in an open meeting so that we can all understand what the deliberations are. We may not agree with the decision, but at least we'll understand it.
So
Yeah, you're
I
right.
am gonna just briefly answer that, and contractual things, fiduciary things, usually are required to be discussed in board meetings. Could we be more transparent about what has occurred in that meeting? Yes, and of the contracts, when we have a contract, it is available after the board has made that decision, which the board has the power to do through the, all of the rules and regulations and the act that we're working under. So, no, we can't, we're not going to do it right here. Okay, so.
I take issue with part of
Yeah,
that.
but thank you. And I wasn't trying to debate, I was just trying to clarify. Okay, Marcus, you're next. How do you envision the board working as a team? Did you talk about teamwork a lot? You talked about your background as a mentor, and how do you envision a board working as a team? Oh, yes, thank you, sorry.
So, obviously, if you have 5 people on the board, you have 5 opinions. There are, I think, no wrong or right opinions. Everybody's entitled to the same, to their own opinions. But again, we need to listen what's being talked about in the community, and maybe as a board member, talk with the other board members about what's going on in the community and try to find a solution, again, as an entire board, to find the right solution to all the problems, again, whether it's good problems or bad problems, to the issues that we have. And I currently have a seat on a different board. I'm one of the board chairs, and it's not easy to bring everybody to the same page. But I think we have always, in all the committees that I've been in, or boards, we always have come to an agreement somehow. And I think I would really be able to bring everybody to an agreement as a board member.
Thank you. And Greg, okay, here's your question. I know that you have in your biography had to make difficult decisions, and you talk about the board having to make unpopular decisions. I'm sorry. I'm either standing in front of someone or I'm not.
You can come over here.
But then I'm still in front of you.
I-
Okay, so how do you think you could communicate to our homeowners and our community when the board is forced to make a decision that's not the popular decision?
Well, that's the trick of leadership. It's not a trick, it's a skill. Right now, I'm a Democrat, I'll admit it to everybody. We're seeing that Mr. Joe Biden, President Biden. We're seeing a professional work. And I may disagree with his politics. In terms of my background in political science and government, a lot has to do with the skill that you deliver that to the constituencies. When I was first running for this board, I said I was going to be out talking to people, in the workout room, in those informal conversations. And I have just watched what Zoom has done to communication today, right here. We're having trouble with the microphones. We're not sure if they can hear us or not. They're quite frankly, this place should be quite packed. It was 2 years ago. It was packed with people who were sitting up there and there wasn't a seat to be found, and you're all wearing masks. And somehow these people, again, this is going to sound offensive, but it's the truth, are blaming us for the lack of communication that's going on. We've had the worst pandemic in the history of the country. It doesn't hurt
So
to
the
get.
question was, how can you communicate to all these people?
I'm talking about that. First of all, the pandemic's got to settle down. First of all, we've got to stop hopefully having to wear masks. I think most of us in here have been vaccinated. It begins to lift. I can feel it lifting in the country. These are feeling things. Because we're primates, everybody. We are not robots. We are not those stupid machines. When I got going on the pitfalls of social media is a horrible way to communicate. It's dividing this country as much as this Nepenthe great place to live is divided right now. And I'll guarantee you, if you listen to this part, this I find something that's wrong, that's not fair to the people that had to make the decisions. Now, we make mistakes like anybody else. Of course we do. We're human beings. But the point is, there's people here, it sounds like a lynch mob for crying out loud. And I'm not happy with it. Because I'll tell you I'm not happy with it. Because I'll tell you the truth. I won't play around with games. I'll tell you the truth. And if you don't believe it, then get rid of it.
Okay.
But they're not going to be showing up at these meetings and telling you the truth over and over again.
Okay, so Greg, I'm going to interrupt because we are now coming up on an hour, and I'd like to start the questions from the
Sure, go ahead.
audience.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There are a lot of questions.
So
online, too.
what we're going to try and do is we are going to try and do a question from an audience member. And Betsy, I don't know if they use the microphone, will it work?
I think anybody who wants to ask a question live should come a little closer to this microphone.
Okay, and I can have them.
Yeah, and or maybe use this mic and be close, but
Yeah, why don't we do that?
yeah.
Okay,
And do you want to alternate back and forth between live and Zoom?
yes, so
Okay.
I'm gonna take the microphone.
Okay.
No, I'm gonna ask people to come to this microphone. So Elizabeth, do you want to come, and then I'll ask for hands up again. All
Good
right.
morning, I'm Elizabeth. You may have heard my story already of a horrific break-in of my beautiful unit across the street on Wednesday morning, April 7th. I'm a 5-year resident of Campus Commons, moving here in 2016 from the Bay Area. I started out as a renter and bought my beautiful unit in 2017. The landscaping had become too tall on my side window of the unit, which protected the perpetrator from coming in with a bowling ball sized rock into my unit. Prior to that was a smaller stone to test the alarm system. I have a disconnected ADT system that the former homeowner had. The signs are out front, the back patio, and on the window that was decimated by these rocks into my
So
unit.
Elizabeth, can you ask your question?
All right, but I just feel that everybody is at risk here, that our beautiful community is under attack because it's not gated. My question, of course, is going to be, what can Marcus and Ashley say? How would you address security and safety? I no longer feel safe in my home. What could you do as board members to make some changes to our community? Thank you.
I did hear about that, and I think it's extremely unfortunate, and nobody in our community should feel unsafe. We got new neighbors, and about a week after they moved in, somebody came by through our alley and smashed or broke some of the mailboxes open, and I guess took some stuff out. So I'm so sorry that happened to you. I have ideas. And we have a contract with a security company. I would say that's the first step that I would suggest to the board. Again, remember, one person on the board cannot make a decision, but that's what I would start with. And then also, since I'm on the landscape committee, I can tell you one of the big issues that we do have is some of the tall bushes around the homes that actually should be removed for more safety. With that, unfortunately, it brings another issue. Some people do not like to have bushes removed. So it's a complex, unfortunately, it's a complex situation, but I would say each house is a little bit different the way they were built, obviously. But in your situation, I think if the bushes weren't there, and there could be some not so nice bushes, or you know, the one with the prickly ones, maybe planted right where your window is. You know, that's a suggestion. But again, that's something that would have to be discussed with the board. Then it has to go to the grounds committee, and so on and so forth. That's one of the things.
Can we get
Oh, sorry. I always.
Hi, well, I think we need to invite the police in and have them give us their suggestions, but we need to talk about, we need to know about Elizabeth's incident. Maybe it's that we have a text system for people to opt in to know, you know, that someone tried to break into 15, 20 comments, or you know, we need to know about it. We need to be on the lookout for each other. We also need to get to know our neighbors more and have their phone numbers. And it's challenging even to find security's phone number on our website. I think I found it, but it says Alliance, but I do believe it's Securitas now. So we don't make it easy, and then we don't hear about things. Marcus had an incident where no one told him other than a neighbor that security caught a guy trying to take his tires off his car. And then his wife got in a car and, you know, really could have gotten hurt had something happened with those tires coming off. So we need to know about everything that's happening. Some people don't want to know, and, you know, that's their choice. But I think we need to make the option available to people. And I don't care if someone sees my car going into Target and coming and going. So maybe we need to have a camera and make it very visible for people that this is a monitored community. I don't know, I just want to talk to everyone about it and, you know, see what the community wants to do. And I'd like to hear what John's thinking is. Oh,
Okay, we're gonna.
Well, here's the thing, we are running on time. I'm actually wondering if the nominated committee wants to move to a timer at this point for
Yes.
answering questions
Yes.
for 1 minute. Is that seem
Yes,
reasonable?
and then we also want to take the next person. from
And now
Zoom.
on the first question on Zoom, I'm sorry.
Could I just ask a point of order?
You know what, I
This is-
just told him
This is
he
a
could not
security,
ask.
this
It's
is
just
a
a point of
security
order.
issue that I think they need to get
No,
the answer for.
no, I'm sorry, because I.
No, we
just
would
told
never
John
get
he
through
could
it,
not
Greg.
respond.
So the first question, and it is for all the candidates, so, but you know, maybe not every candidate wants to answer. The first question is, what are the candidates' views on allowing smoking in the community? Secondhand smoke is easily transmitted between units. John, do you want to start, or do you want to reverse it?
Okay, and we are gonna have to limit the length, so just reply quickly if you can.
Sure. Do you just want to take this one?
All right, I'll use Ashley's. You know, I'm a rabid anti-smoker, and I'm not afraid to admit that. Certainly smoking outdoors helps some of those issues, but I don't know that we could prohibit smoking outdoors, but I really am not in favor of smoking at all.
I haven't seen smoking be a big issue here, but I do notice the smell. I walk around Elmhurst, and there's a couple houses that smell like smoke, and I did have a neighbor that occasionally
had someone smoking out in the patio, so I can see it would be a real nuisance. I'm a big anti-smoker too, I would look into it, but I'm not sure if there's much we can legally do.
Okay.
Depends on what it is, how about?
Depends on what they're smoking.
I believe legally, I don't think you can do anything, but the best is just talk to your neighbor. Maybe they are not aware of it, and I'm sure you can come to an agreement. Maybe the person can smoke some, in a corner of the patio that won't affect the neighbor so much. So that's what I would say.
Greg, did you want to respond to this?
We live across the street from the apartments on University Avenue, and that waft of smoke is coming across all the time behind me, the way it was in 1968. And it was cigarettes I'm talking about. Yeah, I've been a lifelong opponent of smoking. Smoking killed my mother with emphysema, and so, but realistically, we have to go by the standards that are in the community and in the state. And I don't think you can outlaw it outdoors. I don't think that's possible.
Okay. Christina, did you want to?
I'm an anti-smoker as well, so I mean, I don't like any sort of form of tobacco. And I think we also have a rule for vendors, that vendors cannot smoke on the premises as well. And I
Or
think
at the amenities?
or any of the amenities, so we're very strict on that within the community.
Okay. All right. Live question.
Okay, Don. Oh, wait.
You want me on this side or do you want?
I don't know, Betsy, where does he need to
He
be?
needs to just be a little closer to this microphone.
Right. I'm Don Elwinger and I live at 1221 Vanderbilt. This question is for all the nominees and incumbents. If you're elected to the board and you're going to be representing 590 homeowners in Nepenthe, what will you do as a board member to assure us that the money we pay in our HOA dues is spent in a manner and benefit the entire neighborhood as fairly as possible? Thank you.
That's a big question. Do you want to go in reverse order this time? Okay, so we'll start with Christina.
Well, we rely a lot on our finance committee. We work with them, so any contracts, any proposals, etc., is brought to the finance committee. I was on the committee, well, I was treasurer and finance chair for 2 years, working with John when he was chair. One thing that really surprised me in the 2 years I was liaison, we never had any homeowners listen in to any of the finance committee deliberations. And that is absolutely astounding, because one hand we talk about there's no transparency. On the other hand, everything is discussed at the committee level. That is the place where all homeowners can get information at the committees, and it's on grounds, it's on finance. I've been involved with 2 budgets when I was liaison to the finance committee. I just continue with this one here, because this is an important point here. Homeowners, when we discuss budgets, we were discussing reserves, the draft reserve studies, etc. Never did a single homeowner come in and listen and ask questions. So what I would like to encourage for everybody here and on Zoom is to make sure that if you want to know something, come to the committee meetings. As a matter of fact, we have a meeting on Monday at 4:30 p.m. where we're discussing the reserve study. Finance committee is involved in that. They advise the board then discusses this. So that is where all the information is, and that is where we would like to hear from homeowners. Like I said, Don, if you have questions, is to ask and bring that at the committee level, because the committees don't have the same restrictions that we as a board have. And so that is where we would value, and really, I'm delighted, for instance, when I'm on grounds, to see a lot of homeowners coming in and listening on grounds. So that's where I am. Yes, all the over here, but it's on Zoom. And
Can I just make one comment?
Yeah.
So I have a business that I run, and I was on a committee a couple years ago, and I had to drop off. And I've heard this complaint from other homeowners. The meetings are always so early in the day that if you're out of town, or if you have a JOB let me finish it, I know a lot of people don't, they can't attend the meetings. The meeting or the committee I was on, they scheduled meetings at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You know what, I may be in, who knows, Bay Area.
Okay, so that's actually something that the committee gets to decide, but there could be oversight by the board as far as suggesting a time that allows a person who works full-time to be in.
Thank you.
Yes. All right, we're gonna go. Anybody else want to reply to that? And it's different than what Christina said. Because I don't want to be repetitive. We are like never gonna get through this until.
Hi, this is John. And all I want to say is Christina is absolutely right. When I chaired that committee, nobody ever came. And it was really disappointing. There are some big ticket action items in our budget, which is what determines our dues. And I'd be glad to talk to you about what some of those are and where we can take a look at.
We've talked before, John, you know what, I will be at that meeting.
And come talk to me afterwards if you want.
Okay, any other candidate that quickly wants to respond and would be different than what we heard?
I think Ashley had her hand up first. Okay.
Well, just quick, kind of a general response to your question. I mean, it's totally true that most people don't attend any of those meetings, and we probably should find out why they're not attending those meetings. My guess is they are at work. So now, I mean, the Zoom meetings are not ideal, but maybe this hybrid type of meetings that we have is better than just the in-person meetings, since a lot of people may not be able to attend. We have elderly people too that may not be able to come here, so they could maybe watch it on Zoom at least. And so they have a better understanding and more clarification when they can attend the meeting in different ways.
Yeah, and all committee meetings are available via Zoom. Every committee member, every committee must operate through Zoom, and all of the meetings are published on the back of the newsletter every month.
You know, I see the recording light going on at the board meetings, and I hope this is being recorded, and I hope it's published later. I don't see a place where people can see the meetings afterwards. And I would like to change that.
So in our library, all of the board meetings are, all the information is kept in their libraries.
The minutes.
It's available at any time.
No, I'm not talking about like the paper, I mean,
But
the Zoom recordings.
We do record, but it's not for public. We have some other things that we have to do.
Well, I want to make them public. But like today's meeting, I'd like people to kind of see what happened. I think it's important, especially for the people that have JOBs, and some people have jobs on the weekends or other things to do. And want to go back and review things, or sometimes even myself, I missed a few points, I get a phone call, I want to go back and see the detail. So I think that going back to transparency, I'm not sure how many bids we're getting on these contracts. I do think that we ought to be more transparent.
Okay, good. That's going away from the question, so I'm gonna stop you and.
Well, that's saving money or.
Yeah, but if no other candidate, well, yeah, but that's,
Okay.
we started a long ways from there.
Okay, so you want the next Zoom question is from Lorraine Silverstein on Dunbarton, and she has a question for Ashley. What do you mean by transparency? What would you do differently? Also, are you retired or still working?
I'm still working and I have children. I'm very active. I'm high energy. And, you know, one day I'll be retired, but I'm never going to stop working. And I have the time to put into this because I think it's important. But I do, you know, value other people's time, especially the committees doing a lot of the legwork. What was her other question? It was about.
What do you mean by transparency?
Like, for example, you know, the board agenda for the pools, it was end of season closure in the agenda, and then we find out like a day or two later, that they're gonna be closing the pools. It just doesn't seem like in a lot of things happening in closed session. I think a lot of things should be more open. I value the input of others. Even if I don't agree, I would work to get an agreement amongst the other board members and homeowners.
Okay, Betsy, I'm gonna take another question from the audience.
Actually, John needs to come closer. Yeah, right here. Yeah.
Thank you very much for running. It's great that you're doing this. You've given a lot of your time. That's wonderful. It's to be applauded. And I do that. I find in this community that we seem to be somewhat lagging in our response to events that are going around us. One of the things that I notice is that the swimming pools are really an issue. And so I'd like to ask a question of Christina and John, if that's allowed to respond. What steps are you willing to take or bring to the board concerning the reinstatement of those pools? As we all know, the pandemic is going down. We're all relatively elderly people. I hope that you'll allow me that. The propensity of the disease among people our age is diminished. So what ideas do you have in going from where we are to where we should be? Also, just to add, by the way, the barbershops are open, restaurants are open, bowling alleys are open. We've got the Kings, 1,600 people down there watching.
Okay, well, let's let him in.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Who wants to start, John or Christina?
That is directed to Christina and John.
Yes.
Yes.
That's right.
Okay, we are still in the red tier. So, which means we have to follow protocols and guidelines that has been set by the county. And that is exactly what we are doing. And we do this in order to limit any exposure to liability. We are speaking very closely with legal counsel to ensure that the whole community is safe and that we are not exposing the community to any liabilities. So we are just following the guidelines and the protocols. So which means we have to monitor how many people can use the pools. We have to sanitize. And the pools have to be kept at a certain, we have to, inspect and actually put chemicals, whatever chemicals need to be put into the pools, all those, we have to follow those guidelines. If at any point anyone complains, we can just have one person to complain to the county that we're not following these guidelines. They can come in, they can close the pools, they can fine us, and they can revoke our permit. So I think that's what we are trying to do. And by all the homeowners understanding this and following the guidelines and the protocols, that is one way we can ensure that all our amenities are kept open. So we really rely, the board can just, this is our fiduciary duty to the community. And we just have to rely on the common sense of residents and members and homeowners to understand that this is what we have to do. This is not rules that have been set by us. It's by the county, and we have to follow them.
Okay, John. No.
John, that's an excellent question. I've talked about this before. Christina's right. We've got the purple, red, orange, and yellow restrictions, and Sacramento County Environment and Health Department issues orders every time that changes. I will tell you, I have a lot of experience with the Environmental Health Department. They're not the ones who will jump down your throats right away if they sense something is off kilter. They will work with you. And I'm really not too concerned about them coming in and trying to shut us down. I think what the association is doing now in terms of opening this pool and perhaps not the other two, although we've got this gasoline issue, is probably what should have been done before. It's difficult to monitor those two when things are pretty tight with the pandemic. But this one could have kept open like they did across the street. And we could have monitored it through the office. We could have had volunteers during the weekend to make sure they were open.
Okay.
Oh, okay, it's a Zoom question. Let me kind of scroll up to them. Okay. Okay. Sorry, still scrolling. Okay, here we go. The next question is from Lorraine Silverstein to Greg Beal. It says, what do you mean when you say this is not leadership? What is leadership? I'm going to give you 1 minute, Greg.
Well, I've said it over and over, and leadership is telling people what they don't want to hear. It's hard to do that. It's very easy to play games and promise things. This is politics, okay? I've studied it all my life. But the difficult part is when you get something like a pandemic, you're talking about people's lives, right? You made a decision about that pool, it was for people's lives. It wasn't to stop people from swimming. You guys know me, I've worked out here and swam in that pool when I first got here. It was the greatest thing. One of the reasons I love being here. I didn't want to close the pools that hurt children. But those kinds of things are trooped out here. What bothers me about that is basically that's what your position is. And what are you going to do if you have to be the one making tough decisions? Does it help if somebody dies? Because we've got what, almost 300,000 people that have died so far. This isn't game time. This is reality.
Okay, so
Thank you.
I'm gonna try and go from one side to the other in here, so you wanna come up to the microphone?
This is really the one. So if you just stand here and
Okay.
speak loudly, you can even take your mask off if you.
Okay. I'm Jean Picciotto, and I want to thank the current board for an outstanding job during this pandemic. You've helped me tremendously with 2 problems I had. But I want to ask all the board about what would you do to get more participation from the residents? I mean, there's 590 of us, and there's only 50 of us here today. And I've attended a lot of meetings and committees, and there's just no participation. Why? This is a beautiful community, and I want to be here to help too, and to try to solve problems rather than creating them. But I do want to thank management too for helping me during the pandemic. I had 2 major problems. Also, Elizabeth, I think she left. We had a problem on Elmhurst. We found a gun and a blowtorch. And can you imagine if that, I think it was a homeless person sleeping under my neighbor's window. What would have happened if he had started a fire in this community? Pardon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's right next to my residence. How could we get out of here? I mean, that concerned me.
Yeah.
Not only that, I had a homeless pop a light, a safety light, off my home because those LED lights light their tents. I walk every single day over at the river, and there are more and more tents. Also, I reported to the Park and Recreation that there was a fire underneath the homeless camp. They were building fires at night. And I reported that. They said they couldn't do anything. Excuse me?
So what was your question? And
Oh, I wanted to know how we can get more participation.
Okay, great.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Who wants to start, Pat? Okay, I see Ashley's hand first.
One of the things I forgot to mention is I'm the new chair of the outreach committee, but Emily and all of us, we worked at creating a survey that, really trying to find out where people have interest in getting them together, getting everyone more involved, I think is important. And especially we've got some younger families moving here. And I think that we need to do a good job of being an inclusive community. And then, even though it wasn't really a question, but again, the safety, knowing your neighbor, and being friends with them. I think, there's some neighbor to neighbor disputes and whatnot, but at the end of the day, we really need to look beyond that. And, I could talk about the parables of the good neighbor, but being a good neighbor is very important, in my opinion.
Yep, and you wanted to say something too? Ken?
Yeah, committees. Basically, involvement from my view in terms of watching the governance of this HOA is one of the brilliant things about it was the committee structure. And you're right, committees aren't attended very well. But remember, it's been 13 months, I think.
Yeah.
We didn't even meet in a law and liability committee for a long time because we didn't have the Zoom thing. We went for months and didn't meet.
Yeah.
Security, we did have a David Quick watch here. I've seen the pictures of it. I think we revitalized that. Another thing is, and this is controversial, the landscape firm that we've now got going, thanks to Christina's work and leadership, by the way, the landscape committee group that's working now, that turned this place around in the last 2 months, talks about the weight around the buildings. We have so many shrubs that have been there that really are perfect places for people to hide. Now, this is controversial because some I know of you think that they love their shrubs. We could do without a lot of these shrubs and find other things that would make it less prone to burglary. I don't know.
Did anybody else want to?
She asked, could I?
Okay.
Gene, thank you. We've got a variety of kind of owners here, and a lot of owners are, don't bother me, send me the bill, and leave me alone. Those are the ones that we need to attract. And I do think we need to show that we care about that, encourage people to be involved. If we're more transparent in our operations, people will start being interested. This is not going to happen overnight, but I think we can look at it and make a lot more people involved.
Yeah.
If I can just say, I think the pandemic has been a factor here. So I remember being here at the beginning, and we had a lot of social activities around tennis courts, the pool, etc. But I think things have changed so much in the last year, and I think it's going to take a few more months, I'm sure, ahead, because we don't know where we're headed to right now. We all think it's going to get better, but we don't know. So, but that's a good point, and I'm hoping to see you on a committee soon. Yes.
Okay, ready for a Zoom question? Okay, oh, sorry. They keep scrolling upwards on me. Okay. There was a question here from Peter Klein, who is a fairly new homeowner. And I'm going to take this off. Nepenthe's tax filing includes a penalty for failing to pay estimated taxes after the first quarter. Penalty was only $283. Who do each of you feel is liable for the oversight? Membership, First Service Residential, the tax preparer, or who? And this is a question for each candidate. So should we start from the center this time and kind of work our way out? We'll start with Marcus, and I'm going to set the timer. Let's do, this is kind of a hard question. Do you think a minute 30?
30 seconds.
Oh, okay. I'm just going to do a minute then. Go ahead.
I know, Peter, thank you for that question. I would say find out where the problem was, why it got delayed, and hold that person, the board, whoever was at fault, accountable. I think our accountability is huge, and let's see that it doesn't happen again.
Okay. And Ashley?
Well, and looking at the bad CD rates we're getting and everything else, I'm wondering if Carla Chung at First Service Financial has something to do with it. But if I were a member, I would certainly talk to her and shop some of these rates and go through everything, because I really don't trust that they're properly managing our money.
Well, I don't know who files their tax returns or who's responsible for that, but that's where the responsibility should lie.
Great. Do you want to?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I would say the same thing. We have professional staff that deal with those kinds of things, like audit, figuring out what happened and get the board that way. You got to use a chain of command.
Yeah, we did change our tax preparers as well, and that was the problem. We had a problem with the
Timely completion
county completion.
of the
exactly.
contracted
Yeah,
work.
and that's why we had to go to a new tax preparer, and that was the reason.
Okay. Question from this side. Will? You moved. You were sitting over there.
Sitting on the rocks.
You just need to be a little closer to me.
Sure. A lot of generalities, Dave, but Ashley has got some specifics about CD rates. Now, at the time the CDs are committed to, there's a survey of CD rates throughout the United States. And right now they're terrible, by the way, in case you haven't checked. I frankly don't understand. I'd like some explanation as to how you establish that those rates are unacceptable. We can get better rates if we want to go out 8 or 10 years, but we've already laddered out about 3 years. And given the current low rate environment, I don't think the finance committee is not recommended going out that far on these. I mean, we keep thinking that rates are going to change in the foreseeable future. They've been down. There's never been a historic period as low as this in the history of the United States. But what's that
Well,
critique of the rates based on?
happy to show you, it was on the last board meeting packet. But we've got 500,000 sitting in a zero interest account. My credit union pays 0.6%. So we've got 500,000 there, and then the board is considering, locking up, or not the board, but I'm not sure. First Service is looking at, there's 2 million in a higher interest rate account that's coming due. And they're looking at 2 and 3 year CDs of 0.8%. If you look at bankrate.com or even on the internet, I would suggest taking 0.7 at, we would be able to get like 0.6 or 0.7 and not lock it in for two or 3 years, because rates are going up right now. And so if we just wait a little bit and also put our 500,000 in zero interest and put that to work, we should be able to make up the difference and not commit our money at such a low rate.
The bank account that we're utilizing is for the operating costs.
You can still earn interest on those accounts. And if you look at these rates, I mean, they're not very good. Here's Morgan Stanley CD rates. I think I printed that out, but we've got a 1 year, one of their quotes is 0.3 for 1 year CD. I mean, just this rate sheet, these are only a few banks. These are not the best banks. Why do we have this? Are they taking out these people to lunch?
No.
I don't know.
On the days we finally commit, there's a survey of rates. And, they're down and they're up and they're down and they're up. Depending on which particular date. I'd have to go pull
Okay,
the data. I mean, I didn't come carrying the data with me today, so.
well, 1 year at Morgan Stanley right now is 0.05%. I'm really excited about that. Why would we ever do that? I mean, these are terrible rates.
Well, we do have the requirement in the CCNRs about, you have to use the
So.
prudence of a trustee.
I'm not so sure. This is a very complex question because that money is always moving, believe me.
Well, it is
Because-
moving, and it's moving within like
Yeah.
one bad account to another bad account.
Right,
So-
well, not necessarily, and we have lots of, so I think at
Well,
another
then,
time, if you
okay.
wanted, if you wanted to go to the finance committee and ask those questions, I think you could get a more detailed answer, but we're talking about some CDs, there are a lot of CDs, we move them as often as we can, we have financial planners that help us with that, so I think it's not something that we can discuss right here with an easy answer.
Well, I don't think that we're getting all the bank rates for
Okay, I
first,
understand.
for service. I think they just need to do a little more shopping, that's all.
Thank you. Did anybody that wanted to answer that question?
I wasn't sure.
Okay, so let's go to.
Okay. All right, the next Zoom question is, what do you, this is also from Peter Klein, what do you feel is the role of each committee? How do you view committees as conduits to the board of directors? So I don't know where you want to start, if anybody is ready to answer that. Okay, Greg has indicated that he's ready.
Well, it's kind of redundant because one of the reasons I ran 2 years ago was the awareness, the committee structure is vital to how this place works. That's your communication to the public, to the 500 or 600 people that households are here. And of course, then we throw in, and you can hear it again, pandemic, which obliterated the committee input. So now we're here trying to reinvent the wheel when the wheel's already there. Basically, the board can show by its leadership the committee process of making decisions. Now, that also means when the committee makes a suggestion to the board, it isn't just kicked aside. The bottom line is fiduciary responsibility of this place lies with the 5 board members. To revitalize the committee would be one of my first objectives. Just 2 years ago, it was my first objectives, because we had people complaining then the committees weren't functioning correctly. Remember the parking issue? That's probably a thing that always goes on with HOAs, is that angst, that anger, that you just don't feel like anybody's listening. But I think once we get the pandemic out of the way, we just use the structure you have and revitalize it.
Okay, anybody else want to answer that? Okay, go ahead.
Greg's is exactly right. And give me your microphone. There we go. Greg's is exactly right. I think we could strengthen the role of the committees. We could give them the opportunity to present their findings at board meetings. Hopefully the recommendations, as Greg says, get kicked aside. I think it's a smart idea.
We have just heard a Berkeley guy praise a Stanford guy, just so you know.
That's not going to happen very often.
Okay. Christina?
Well, let me address that. I'm as a liaison to the grounds committee. I'm currently working with grounds. We had a walk yesterday to look at ways to modify, to modernize, and improve on our landscape maintenance. So the board has requested the grounds committee to give us their thoughts, their comments, and their considerations as far as the landscaping is concerned. And so we really work very closely with the committees, and they are our advisors. They are an advisory committee to the board. And we do rely on every one of them to give us information, and we do follow through on that based on our fiduciary responsibilities.
Okay, Ashley?
Well, committees are really important, and we are going to have a homeowners forum, and I think we just need to do a much better job of getting people involved and having the different committees out there. I don't think we're doing enough to welcome the new homeowners, and that's something, you know, that we really need to change so they understand how things work, and then also get them involved. And again, I think our communications, our website could really be improved. I think, you know, our activities are probably out of date. It's not reliable. Really, you know, doing a better job at communicating with our homeowners, not having to download a newsletter or go to some link, and then it's just like a labyrinth to find some information that you need. So those would be some of my suggestions.
Okay. Oh, yes, go ahead, Mark.
So regarding committees, as I can talk specifically about the landscape committee that I'm on. There are 12 people, with Steve Hoffman being the chair, and then Christina being the liaison between the board and our committee. So you have like 12 members that not always have the time to attend our meetings. When you miss a meeting, you're no longer, I want to say, up to date. Then we kind of fall back again every time we meet. And a lot of, we all have our personal opinions, our personal feelings get hurt if there is a bush cut and so on. And we don't always look at the big picture human nature. But I think if we can get together a little bit or come to a better understanding in one committee, and again, I'm pretty sure it's very similar on the other committees too, and come to an agreement and bring that to the board, and then what the outcome needs to be presented to the entire community, how it got there, how the outcome got there. That's the response and the so-called transparency that everybody seems to be talking about. I think we have a better understanding and less miscommunication in the community.
Audience question, either type of. You're gonna have to.
So my question is for John, Ashley, and Marcus. I don't feel like as a mom with a 9, 13, and 15-year-old that I have a voice for our amenities in a way that works for families with jobs or homeschooling in the area, needing to use these facilities for PE. And so I have great hope for what you're offering for listening to homeowners. And specifically right now with the pools, it's really difficult and the front office staff test too. We're trying to work for solutions for my family to be able to use the pool together. There's 5 of us in our household. We'd like to use a heated pool together. That's not an option right now. My children being able to swim laps, 3 of them. We've been working on compromises about that. And then the hours. And then also now that we have experienced having Dunbarton being monitored with the cameras, is it possible that we could look at, once these heaters are fixed, that maybe both pools could be used? So I'd like to ask the 3 of you, just ideas that you have for expanding access to the facilities to suit working families.
Can I go first on this?
I think it's really, is that okay? Marcus one, okay.
I'll try to make this quick. I mean, this is not an easy fix. I'm sure our current board, if they could fix it quickly, they would have. I'm confident in that, you know. However, personally, I always have plans for the future in my life. I mean, for not just for tomorrow, for whether I'm going to achieve my goals in the future or not, that's a different story, but I always try to be as prepared as possible. And again, I do not want to talk negative about the current board. I do not know, none of us that have not been on their discussion WhatsApp, we cannot really talk about it. But anyway, I would have, if it would have been me last fall, I personally was not very confident that everything is going to be perfect again in spring. I would have been proactive. I do appreciate that the pools actually got resurfaced on time for the reopening. So with that being said, in fall, we should have had a second plan adjusted in case, what if we can't open fully. What we are doing, or what the community is doing right now with Dunbarton, we should be able to do with all the pools. And with that being said, of course, additional cost may be involved with having a different, you know, staff, extended hours and whatnot. We would have to give the community the options. Say, look, we're going to be happy to have all the pools open per the guidelines of the county. I mean, that's all we can do, you know, whether we like it or not. I don't like it. I hate to watch that empty pool in front of my house. It is not the board's decision that to keep it closed. Well, let me take it back. We don't have the staffing apparently to keep them all open. We should have had a second plan in fall, just in case. It would have been great if we wouldn't have to use it, but at least we should have had, I think, a better plan. So.
Audrey, thank you. Thank you for that question. You know, you're in a situation with young children that a lot of us don't have anymore. And so we don't serve families like you very well. And not just in the pools, but in a lot of possibilities. And actually, I can tell you the outreach committee, we're really looking at that because we're hearing loud and clear from people like you that needs to be worked on. I can tell you that what the association is doing now, and the pool closures in the fall is behind us. I didn't agree with the way it happened. But what we're doing now could be improved on a little bit, even within the county guidelines, by offering these to be open during the weekend rather. We can have volunteers. I would volunteer to come here and monitor this pool. Check people in, scrub down the chairs. I do it. I think it's so important to have those available, particularly on the weekends when kids are not either Zoom school or in school.
Thanks for your question. You know, with the 12 and 19-year-old, my daughter, I think, broke the rule over the summer, went in without telling me, and got harassed by some people saying she was a rule breaker. But